Splinter Blacklist and Metal Gear Solid 5, Phantom Pain, are two sides of one coin. And that coin might as well be demonetized at this point. Okay, what I mean by that stupid-ass metaphor is that both are stealth action games of a dying genre, and both are games of franchises that haven't seen any mainline entries since. And you see, both games have a lot of similarities. Wait, you know what? Scratch that. Both the games are completely different in the way that they handle the stealth action genre. But at the same time, they have quite a few parallels and similarities. Both have interesting takes on the approach to stealth and player freedom. And not only that, but they also have interesting backgrounds, development histories, and receptions after launch. So I thought, it'd be a cool idea to talk about both these games in isolation, while also trying to contrast some of this in a multi-part series format. So join me on this 3-part series as we take a look into two of the most iconic stealth game protagonists and their journey into, let's just say, a new direction. This is Rupit Bhandari, and welcome to DumbShizTalks, where it's lockdown and I'm alone. Just cut to the intro. Splinter Cell Blacklist, released in 2013, puts you in the shoes of series protagonist Sam Fisher. After the events of Conviction, Third Echelon has... So, Fisher is tasked by the President of the United States to head up a new intelligence organization. A new Splinter Cell, essentially. And the name of that organization is Fourth Echelon. How very creative. Now, just as this team is being formed, Sam and his team must come together to face a new threat, a terrorist organization known as the Engineers. Now, the Engineers have one demand. America is a huge country, and they have soldiers stationed all around the world. The Engineers want them to bring them back home, withdraw all troops from overseas, and if that demand is not met, they will regularly start attacks on American soil. In a list of attacks cryptically named such as American consumption, American fuel, American blood, and that list is known as the Blacklist. So Sam and his team will go globetrotting around the world in their new base in the sky, that is the Paladin, breaking into some of the most secure places on the world, and also protecting American territory from these Blacklist attacks. It's a nice setup. The game distances itself from the previous entries to a point, allowing the game to be played more as a standalone experience, while also having enough characters and plot elements so that returning players can appreciate it. And I have to make one thing clear here. Splinter Cell is a game not known for its compelling stories. At the best of times, they were excuses for Sam Fisher to go from one place to another and find that guy or complete that objective. And the worst of times, they were atrocious, trying to be inspired by shows such as 24, while at the same time failing to bring up any compelling direction and characters. I mean, they had some good ideas. I mean, Double Agent had a lot of good ideas, and so did Conviction, but they just didn't have as much experience in developing a good story, and neither did they have perhaps a good production budget or something. I have no clue. it was just the execution was a lot lacking. This game, however, the direction of the cutscenes is well done. There's a lot of cutscenes, in fact, in between missions that link up the story pretty well. The characters are well voice acted, and overall, it's a pretty good story. Dare I say it, it's the best in the series. Again, that's not a high praise considering the previous stories in the game, but yeah, it is. And it does so by being a very cohesive plot. Now, if there is one huge complaint I'd like to have, is that Sam Fisher in this game is not the character we knew. Let's get the obvious out of the way. Michael Ironside, the voice actor for Sam in all the previous games, did not return. And he had a valid reason for not returning. He was unfortunately battling with cancer at that time. Fortunately, he has recovered and even did a small cameo in Ghost Recon Wildlands, so thanks, man. So instead we had voice actor Eric Johnson playing Sam Fisher. Now, Eric Johnson does best as he can with what he's given. But the problem I have is first choosing Eric Johnson as a character. As Sam Fisher's voice actor, sorry. You see, he's too young. Sam Fisher at this point is over 50 years old, and you bring a very young, not immature, but very young voice actor to voice him, and it just sounds so jarring to me. Hell, he even looks and plays like a 20-year-old kid. And I understand they had to do this, and they also had to were trying new things with performance capture here, so they used Eric Johnson's performance capture as well. But come on, that just doesn't sound right. But the more pressing matter is that the writing does not portray Sam Fisher as a likable protagonist, which up to this point he really was. Even in Conviction, even at his deepest point, you had something to like about him. He had this very dry wit that would dry humor that would come up at times, and he sounded like a guy who was just old, grumpy, and tired. Here, he sounds young, grumpy, and obnoxious. He doesn't speak loudly or something, okay? It's a Splinter Cell game, so a lot of the dialogue is a bit whispery. But he just makes stupid decisions. He goes into stupid fits of rage, and it's just mind-boggling how a character this old and this experienced can just make stupid decisions. Not only that, he's portrayed as a bad leader, which fine, but they don't go about it in the most convincing fashion. And by most convincing fashion, I just say that they make him do the most ridiculous shit. And overall, I'd say that, unfortunately, this really does turn off from the story a little bit, because again, the same charm isn't there. In fact, there is not a single bit of humor. Normal wit, normal jokes, nothing. There's not even a sense of dark humor, which should be present. I mean, come on. This is a game with a terrorist organization making somewhat rational demands of the US withdrawing its troops from overseas. Not only that, there's a level where Sam Fisher and his team, I kid you not, infiltrate Guantanamo Bay, and it is completely straight-faced. They did not utter a single word on how cruel and unjust this place is, and the fact that it still exists. They have no commentary here, and it's just blows my mind. But still, compared to the previous games, the story is still great. And I'd like to give a special mention to the antagonist, because they do a great job at being a viable threat. The main antagonist, Majid Siddiq, the leader of the engineers, is a driving force for the game. He is shown as being one step ahead of the team of Fourth Echelon quite a few times, and while Fisher is able to stop a few attacks, he failed in stopping one of the terrorist engineer attacks, and it just shows them to be a viable threat. And they have a lot of backing behind them. They have a pretty good reasoning and motive and stuff, and it's just overall they're characterized really well. And all of this is bolstered by some very good, very slick presentation and some high budget production for, of course, because it's a AAA game. The graphics are a bit dated technically, even for its time, which is a pretty huge criticism. I don't mind it as much because, partly because my system just can't handle games that well, and I'm in no position to talk about technical graphics, but it still looks fine, and I think the art direction here makes up for it. The shadows look a lot great. There's a nice contrast between light and shadow, light and dark, light and shadow. The way a lot of the levels are designed visually is very interesting, and while none of the levels are that memorable, there's always a great sense of atmosphere to all of them. And as I've already said, the voice acting is great, and the sound effects and audio cues, they're all fantastic. And now that we've got all of that out of the way, let's actually talk about the fun stuff, the gameplay.
Told you this would get messy.
I have a really strong suspicion that this game was built using Blacklist's tech as a framework, since a lot of the way the animations work are similar. The cover system is back, and so is mark and execute. And so the main idea that I got from this, as well as some of the interviews I watched, was that the developers were trying to add in all these stealth elements and ideas that they had removed from Conviction. And overall, I'd say they did a pretty good job. I mean, almost all of the aforementioned ideas that they take from Conviction, for example, stuff like mark and execute and the cover system, they have been tweaked in small ways to make them more viable for stealth approaches. And the level design overall is a lot better now. It's linear, as Splinter games have always been, and even more so in this game, because you're going from point A to point B to objective C and so on and so forth, and you have, very linear cinematics, and sections of each level are pretty much locked off for the scoring systems and whatnot, basically making each section somewhat isolated, which is fine. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but but these sections have a much higher degree of freedom than you'd expect. You can, you just go from cover to cover and play this like a cover shooter. Shoot everything down, go lethal. Or you can play like you played Conviction. Be silent, but use headshots and more lethal means to silently kill everyone. Or you can play it like a typical Splinter Cell game. Try to be a ghost. Try to leave enemies untouched. Sometimes the game will force you into sections that I tell you to either take one route or the other. Sometimes it'll force you to enter combat. Sometimes it'll tell you to stay stealthy. Sometimes non-lethal. But 90% of the game is a lot more open for the player to enjoy, and these campaign missions that you go through are very well designed, and they're pretty good. Again, they're not as great as the bank heist missions and the bathhouse missions and the Jerusalem levels from the previous games, but they are pretty good. And the bigger thing is that the game features a lot of gadgets, weapons, and an entire economy for economy slash upgrade system for Sam, as well as 4th Echelon's Paladin. That is the big ass plane that you live in the side missions. Now, the economy allows you to buy weapons, gear, gadgets, upgrades for your items, and so on and so forth. And this, and the money required to earn it is built from the missions in an interesting way. Within missions, you have the main objective, right, that you have to complete in linear succession. But you will also come across some side objectives, such as finding dead drops, which are, flash drives left behind that provide small amount of intel. Then you have Blacklist laptops that need to be hacked. But if you're detected, the laptop will self-destruct and you won't be able to pick it up, obviously. And you have high-value targets, soldiers that are on different intelligence agencies, most wanted list. And you'd probably be better off packing them and sending them to authorities. These side objectives are pretty good, and they actually increase the challenge a little bit because you can easily just find alternate routes, but to get to these objectives, you have to start taking more difficult routes and have to, try to trapeze your way to maintain your cover while also completing these objectives, which is a pretty great challenge. At the same time, at the end of each mission, you are judged on three different types of actions. You have assault, Panther, and what was that? Yeah, Assault, Panther, and Ghost. So Assault is loud, obnoxious, and lethal, like Americans. Yeah, I hate myself for that joke. It's pretty obvious. Killing enemies while in combat, being detected, and just being a total murderer gives you points in the Assault category. Playing the game like Conviction, the previous game that is, being silent but lethal and evading enemies gives you points in the Panther style category, and taking out hostiles non-lethally or just leaving them untouched gives you points in the Ghost category. Ghost gives you more, leads you to earn more money than Panther, and then Assault gives you the least amount of money. So it allows you to play in whatever playstyle you want, but at the same time has a small encouragement to be more stealthy and try for a ghost run more often than not. And you can also excel in each approach, going for a gold version of the approach you're taking by being heavily efficient and trying to go for one mode or the other. And that's pretty good, I'd say. Aside from that, the moment-to-moment gameplay is very refined. Unfortunately, there are a few things that haven't returned, such as the light meters and the sound meters, which is annoying. The stealth is still based on a binary hidden/non-hidden, that is shadow and light based detection system, and the sound is you can be detected by sound, but it's more uncertain and a bit more unpredictable, which leads to a bit of frustration. But it's not that bad. The enemies are played pretty well, and you can get gear later on. I've also forgotten to mention this, but aside from the main list of campaign missions, you also have side missions for each of your teammates. I mean, you play them, of course, but you can play the side missions assigned to you by each teammate of the 4th Echelon, which are actually called 4E missions. 4th Echelon missions. So each specs into a different type of mode and different type of playstyle, such as Grimm's missions being completely stealth, and you can't be detected at all. It's mission over, and these are really fun missions. And you can play them solo with a teammate, which is really fun. Unfortunately, I am a shut-in, so I play games offline only. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to experience any of the online content. Now, overall, bring back to the moment-to-moment gameplay. It's fun. The shooting is very on point. For a stealth game, it's extremely competent. You can aim and shoot and pretty well. The gadgets are very easy to use. They're fun to use. They're not anything out of the ordinary, but they're pretty fun to use overall. And overall, it leads to an experience that is linear but highly replayable and very enjoyable. It's a pretty damn good game, and I can't really hate on it that much. Unfortunately, in spite of all this, the game wasn't a commercial success. Well, at least according to Ubisoft's expectations. The game was expected to sell 5 million copies across all the platforms it released on. It only sold 2, and I do have a theory for that. Okay, it's not a theory, it's pretty much a common truth at this point. First off, the previous games in the Splinter series were trash. Double Agent was just a missed opportunity throughout, and Conviction was just an awful stealth game, an awful Splinter Cell game. So what happened was that the reputation, the bad press received from those games kind of bled over into Blacklist. And also that small controversy regarding the voice actor for Sam Fisher kind of ballooned out a bit. So anything you heard about Blacklist was Sam Fisher is not being voiced by Michael Ironside, and that is awful. So overall that kind of hurt a bit. And then there's the fact that stealth games that are focused solely on stealth don't really sell that well. They're not that viable as an accessible product. In spite of this, I've already mentioned that the game is a lot more engaging and allows for a lot more player freedom, so you can play this action-oriented. But unfortunately, the bad press combined with the fact that, stealth game, this was primarily aiming to be a more stealthy experience, it led to a very good critical reaction. The news outlets and journalists and video game critics really loved it, but at the same time, the commercial reception was very lukewarm. And, I really see this as a travesty, because the developers of this game, Ubisoft Toronto, and the director, one of the directors, Maxime Ballon, stated in an interview that he wanted this to be a more stealthy game. He went through a lot of the criticisms and a lot of the games for this previous game that he directed, Splinter Cell Conviction, and he saw that a lot of people wanted more stealth options and tried to be and a much stronger focus on stealth rather than combat. But when they when they take in survey data, when they bring in playtesters, they have no appreciation for that shit. They just want to pick up a gun and shoot some people. Like Americans.
Bruh.
Okay, I'm just really digging a hole for myself now. But that's kind of the sad problem. Some games fit a particular niche, and when the fan base that it originally caters to has been somewhat soured by previous games, it's really hard to win them back. Unfortunately, Splinter Cell might have not brought them back. Ever since then, 2013, we haven't seen a single Splinter Cell game ever since. It's 2021 this year, and I cannot feel sad, because everything was set in place. If Blacklist received a sequel, it would probably be the best game in the franchise. It would finally surpass Chaos Theory, and that idea just makes me sad. Now that we have talked about Sam Fisher's, perhaps last mission, hopefully it's not, but now that we've talked about it, I think it's time we take a look at the 2015 video game that arguably is both better and worse than Splinter Cell Blacklist. And part 2 of this series that I will be uploading maybe a week, I guess, after this. I hope it does come out on time because we've just been completely exploding on ourselves. But in part 2, we will be taking a look at Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. So, until then, this is Rupit Bhandari on behalf of DumbShizTalks, signing out. Peace. Oh, and if you'll excuse me, I have to play some American football.
Son of a bitch!
Who's there?